Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello, welcome to DC Trainings. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer. I'm happy to be with you today. We've got a great topic, and our topic is reactivating new patients, which this is week 8 of module 2, and module 2 is new patients. Today is reactivating new patients. And let me just ask you, have you had patients where they're great patients, but for whatever reason, they really don't follow your recommendations to the T? They actually come in sort of as needed for flare-ups or for pain. And, chiropractic care is great for pain, but ideally, we want our patients to follow our recommendations to achieve a certain level of wellness or spinal stability, if you will, and then maintain that threshold rather than letting it drop down and go back into a cycle where they come in just when they're in pain and they're not really getting their spinal correction the right way. So ideally, we want our patients to follow our recommendations to avoid that situation. And many of them will, but some will, through their own choosing, they'll sort of come and go, and they'll come when they're hurting. And obviously when they come in, then they're really grumpy. They're not happy because they're hurting. Understandably, I get that. I'd rather have patients come in that are happy and really enjoying a wellness lifestyle, or that threshold that I talked about before. So that's what we're going to cover today, is how do we help those patients who tend to show up when they're hurting only? How do we help those patients to adopt more of a wellness lifestyle, or maybe a more preventative lifestyle, utilizing chiropractic care to prevent those flare-ups? How do we incorporate that into our practice and help those patients to really adopt our recommendations around more of a wellness lifestyle? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. And let me share my screen, because we're going to dive into this, and we're actually starting to wrap up our module 2 series. So just want to, because you can see my screen now, just want to remind everyone that our next seminar is scheduled for May 20th, which is basically 2 weeks out on a Saturday. Now, this next seminar is actually a virtual seminar. We're not going to have a live seminar, but don't forget, because the module 4 seminar in July, that will be a live seminar. So please put that on your calendars. The date is on the website. Make sure you put that on your calendar so that you can plan on attending in person and being at that seminar for module 4, which is the topic for that one is financial arrangements. This next seminar, module 3, on May 20th, is titled Report of Findings. And for that one, it's a virtual seminar. So here's a thought. I'm actually thinking that rather than being redundant through these webinars, we may actually want to just kick off module 3 next Thursday, because today is technically week 8 of this module. So we're wrapping it up. Rather than having a gap week, let's just dive right into module 3 and start the report of findings module. Brings the information to you sooner, and obviously that helps you to run a successful practice. So just throwing that out there. Watch for an email from us. We're going to be getting some feedback from you in terms of how we can cater to what your needs are. But watch for an email from DC Trainings around that topic. So let's get into reactivating new patients and talk about the importance of having this in your practice. Now, I want to frame this before we get too far off into the topic itself. I want to frame this because let's look at this from the patient's perspective. Here I am, a patient. I love my chiropractor. My chiropractor adjusts me when I'm hurting. I feel better. That's great, right? I'll go back when I'm hurting and I'll get adjusted again, so I'll feel great. Now, chiropractic is wonderful in that capacity, and I like to use it in a different way for myself and my family, but that's okay. So here I am. I come in, I'm hurting, I get adjusted. While I'm there, the chiropractor says, you need to sign up for a full care plan that's 12 months long or 20 visits long, and last time you didn't do that, so really you need to do that. Okay. Now, in my mind, I think, well, wait a minute. No, I just came in because I'm hurting. You're going to adjust me like you always do. I'll leave and I'll come back in 6 weeks or a month or 6 months when I'm hurting again, and I'll let you know, you can adjust me again so that I'm not hurting anymore. And then I'll leave and then I'll come back, right? Well, From the patient's point of view, that sounds very reasonable. From the doctor's point of view, unfortunately, we know that under the surface, that may leave their condition in a situation where it's continuing to decline. And we're just simply skimming the surface by providing these pain relief adjustments, while underneath the surface, their health is actually going in the wrong direction. So we need to use the opportunity when our patients come back in to see us to help them understand why it is that we recommend maybe more visits for a flare-up. That's fine. But then we also recommend some supportive care that maintains that threshold of wellness that we want all of our patients to enjoy. So that's if we frame that in that way, then we need to set up our office in a way so that when the patient does come back in to see us, they don't feel pressured into, oh, here we go again. I've got to do another exam. I got to do new x-rays. They're going to try to get me to sign up for a bunch of visits. We want to do it in a way where it's nurturing and it's comfortable. And even if they do say no to our recommendations, they feel comfortable coming back. That's what we want to get to. Okay. So that's where we're going to go through this. Now, there's one more part to this that I want to just say before we get into the deeper parts of it. And that is that this is a nice overview of the whole module that we just covered, module 2, which is the new patient module. So we're going to do a summary of that as we go through this, because we've really covered a lot of information in this module. And when reactivating new patients come in, we're going to hit some of the high points of this module as it relates to them and as it relates to a recap. So it says on the screen, natural attrition, the leaky bucket, right? As many as half of all of our new patients may be returning former patients. Now, let me explain that, because in module 6, I'll teach you marketing. And I'm going to teach you marketing in a way that you can have more new patients than you can handle. And I say that actually with all seriousness, because I know the feeling. I mean, on Monday this week, we had more new patients than we could handle. I mean, we had so many new patients that our existing patients waited, in my opinion, too long. It wasn't really a long time, but in my opinion, it was too long because they're not used to waiting. So we want to turn up our marketing in a way so that the patients that do leave will come back to see us. And if we do it in the right way, as many as half of our new patients that are coming in could be former patients that used to see us, and they're coming back. And each time they come back, we have another opportunity to educate them about regular supportive care or maintenance chiropractic care. So we want to have that in mind, and we will get into that in module 6 when we do the marketing in more depth. Okay, so if we have lots of new patients coming in that are actual reactivating former patients or returning former patients, then this is going to become a daily occurrence, right? It says on the screen, if marketing is done correctly, reactivating new patients will become a daily occurrence. That means that every day that you come into the office and you have new patients scheduled, some of those new patients, maybe as many as half, but at least on a regular basis, some of those new patients are going to be former patients that you used to see. So it would be wise for you to have a system in place that welcomes them back and doesn't make them feel pressured or make them feel like you're just repeating the same thing that you said the first time they came in, right? We want to have this be a fresh experience. We want to have it be non-confrontational. We want it to be more nurturing, right? So when the new patient comes in, and this is a reactivating new patient, right? There's a memorable welcome by the reception CA. Now, we covered this in depth at the beginning of this module, but a memorable welcome in this context, which is a little bit different, is going to go like this. Let's see it. Dr. Glenn, you'll be our star patient today. So Matt, it's great to see you. I just want to welcome you back. It's been 2 years since we saw you. So thank you so much for coming back to see us. We're happy to help you. Go ahead and have a seat. We'll be right with you, right? That's that memorable welcome greeting by your reception CA. You're welcoming the patient back in and saying it's great to see you. So make sure you have that down, because there's specific parts of that memorable welcome that are important. What was it? We greeted the patient by name. We said, it's great to see you again. We are going to ask them for a copy of their insurance card. We may give them a health history form to fill out. Or this is where it can change a little bit. We might actually just give them an ouch form. For those of you familiar with the ouch form is just a very quick way to gather the subjective complaints of your patient on a small piece of paper. And back to my earlier point, you might have patients that have done this several times and they actually don't want to fill out a health history form all over again because they've done it before and they don't want to do it again. And none of their information has changed since the last time. So they don't want to fill that form out again. So if that's the situation where the patient really is like, I don't want to do all that again, I just want to get adjusted, just give them an ouch form. It's a nice, subtle way of saying, we just want to update your file and we want to gather some information so we can best care for you, right? So that memorable welcome is the first part of that. It might include a health history, patient information form to fill out, or it might just include an ouch form. From there, then we're going to bring them into our consultation room. So new patient CA escorts the patient into a consultation room. And again, this is where it can change because I have patients that have been doing this as well. The patient may not want to go into the consultation room. They're like, I don't need to do all that. I've already been here. You've taken my history. None of my information's changed. I just want to get adjusted. So you can actually have them go into an adjusting room and then do sort of a mini consultation in that room to just, quote, update their file or address what's on their ouch form, right? So it could be that they go into an adjusting room. If this is an established patient that you know well enough, then great, do it in an adjusting room for their comfort, okay? Then we will continue on with the next step, which is a new consultation. Now, again, a new consultation could be in the consultation room with a CA, gathering all of the new information, or it could be in an adjusting room with an ouch form. And it might be that a CA goes in just ahead of the doctor just to spend a couple minutes saying, oh, I see you on your ouch form here that you've had some neck pain and there's a flare-up since you were mowing the lawn over the weekend. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'm going to share that with the doctor before the doctor comes in. So a little mini consultation is important because it lets the patient know this is separate from just a routine adjustment. And that's really a point that I want to make. I want you to get away from these, we call them echo patients because they just they'll go away, then they'll come back quickly. Then they'll go away and then they come back again. They're echo patients. And they're great patients. I enjoy taking care of them. But there needs to be something in the flow or in your office policy that changes this from, this is not just an ordinary, another adjustment to fix my back pain. This is we haven't seen you for a period of time and it warrants updating your file or at least gathering more in-depth information so that we can better care for you and the condition that you have in your spine. So that new consultation might again just be brief. It might be something that's done in a private room, or it might actually be something that's in the consultation room. But either way, a new consultation is performed. Then the CA leaves the room and the doctor comes in. When the doctor comes in, of course, I'll come back to that screen. When I walk in as the doctor, right, the patient's already laying face down for me because I'm in a high volume practice, right? We see a lot of patients. So when I walk in the room, I need to make sure that the patient's laying down. Otherwise, it starts to slow our flow down through the office. So when I walk in, they're already laying down because my CA went in first, did that little mini consultation, gathered some details, maybe got the ouch form or filled out the consultation details form. They're laying down. I'm going to say, hi, Matt, it's great to see you. Welcome back. It's been 2 years since we've seen you. I saw your ouch form there. I'm sorry that you're hurting. Let me see what I can do to take care of you, right? And I'm going to start palpating them. Now, based on that palpation, and I'll come back to the PowerPoint slide in a second, based on that palpation, I need to decide if I can go ahead and do an adjustment or if I need more testing or more information before I provide the adjustment. Such as, I just had this happen. I had a patient come in yesterday who was in a car accident. Actually, it wasn't a car accident. He was on his bike and somebody clipped him on his bike. They were in a car and then he bounced off of a parked car. Ouch, right? Didn't have to go to the ER or anything, but he came to see us. So when I walk in, based on that history, which was written on the ouch form, I need to know, can I just go in and adjust this patient? Or do they maybe have a spinal fracture? Or is there some other tests that need to be done? So he was already laying down and I came in and I checked his spine and I said, I'll use the same name. I said, Matt, it's great to see you. So sorry to hear about the accident you had. I'm glad you're here and you're not in the ER, but I'm going to do my best to take care of you. And I start palpating. As I'm palpating, in my mind, I'm deciding, okay, I know I want to adjust this patient, but I might also be thinking, this is a patient who's been coming and going. Each time they come, I say, you should come in more often to keep yourself out of this pain threshold. And they never do it. They just keep showing up when they're in pain every 8 months, 9 months, every year for 1 or 2 adjustments, and then they're gone, right? So as I'm palpating that patient, I might say to myself, I want to get a couple more tests before I start moving bones around with this person. And that could be because they just had a car accident, or they just were hit on their bike by a car, like I described. Or it might be because I just don't know if I want to give this adjustment yet, when I know if I do the adjustment, this patient's just going to be gone for another year, and then I'll see them a year later, and that's all they'll get. So I might actually withhold the adjustment in a way to help them reprioritize how they're utilizing my care, right? I mean, let's face it, if they're only looking for pain relief, they could go into a CVS, spend $5 on a bottle of aspirin, and that would cost a lot less money, and it would take away their pain and problem solved, right? If that's all they're looking for. Chiropractic care doesn't work like that. We want to make sure that we are actually correcting this condition that could potentially cause permanent damage in the spine. So I'm going to jump back to my slide here, because based on what I've just explained, the doctor needs to decide, am I going to adjust this patient right now, or am I going to hold back the adjustment and do some tests first? I might even do those tests and have the patient come back on a different day, right? And say, I can't even adjust you right now. You just bounced off a car on your bike. I need to study these results real carefully. I'm going to give you some icing instructions. I'm going to see you back tomorrow, and I'll review these findings, and then I'll make sure that it's safe to adjust you. And I'm just going to add this because this is something that I've taught you, and I'll get into this in detail in our next seminar, module 3. I'm going to go into a lot of depth on this, and this is called the push-off. I might even decide to say, in order for me to accept you back as a patient, it's only with the understanding that this time you're able to follow through with my recommendations, because based on how you've been following my recommendations, which has been very sporadic, whatever the circumstances are that forced you to do that or caused you to do that, that's fine, no problem, no hard feelings. But for me to accept you as a patient, it would only be with the understanding that you're able to follow my recommendations, because what I'm seeing on these test results indicates that while I'm taking care of you for pain relief, your condition's been going downhill. And I'd rather not take care of you as a patient if I know that under the surface, your condition is going downhill and getting worse while I'm taking care of you. It's just not worth our time for me to do that, right? So you need to decide that as a doctor and determine what you want to do for this patient at that given moment. And I know there's a couple of new docs that are relatively new out of school. So yes, I know when you're first out of school, everybody, you're just saying, be my patient, be my patient, be my patient. You need more patients. I also see some of you that have been in practice for a long time. So in that case, you're probably a little more comfortable giving the push off because you have plenty of patients, and you can afford to say, if you don't like it, that's okay. No hard feelings. I just don't want to take care of you under these circumstances. But back to my first example, for those of you who are relatively new in practice or are new in practice, what the push off does is it actually creates value and will increase compliance through patients, for patients to follow your recommendations. It'll increase compliance. So just remember that. Anyway, so we're going to decide whether or not to provide an adjustment. We're going to decide if we need additional tests. Obviously, for this patient I just told you about, who he was on his bike, a car sideswiped him, bumped into him, and knocked him into a parked car. We took the time to do some extra tests. We actually took some x-rays. I wanted to make sure he didn't have a spinal fracture. And that was really important. So you may decide to do that. Now, I want to give you another example where you may decide to do this, and that is based on a patient that's not following your recommendations. And if you know that they're just coming in for one adjustment to feel better, and then they're going to leave, and they've done it many times, you might say in that moment, and I'll just kind of role play this with you, I guess. In this case, Matt, I am seeing some changes that I haven't seen before, which tells me that your condition potentially has dropped a notch since the last time I saw you. And rather than just going in and doing an adjustment like we normally would, This time I'm going to actually get some x-rays. I need to review these carefully because it could be that your condition has destabilized. And for me to go in there and do an adjustment without knowing whether that's true or not, it jeopardizes, your potential results. So I need to go ahead and do these tests. I'm going to study these and I'll let you know what I find. Okay. Now you're going to see a look of shock a little bit in your patient's eyes. Like, well, wait a minute. I'm used to just coming in once a year. You adjust me for my free birthday adjustment and then I leave. And what's wrong with this? Why are you doing this to me? So if you don't make it about office policy. You wouldn't say, I went to a seminar, I learned from Dr. Sawyer that I'm not supposed to do this, so I'm just going to change my policy. Don't say that because, not that that's wrong. It's just that your patients don't care about that. They care about themselves, rightfully so. What's in it for me, right? So make it about them. Make it about their benefit. Make it about their condition and getting the best results. And by doing that, they'll see the genuineness of the steps that you're taking. And they'll know that you're genuinely cared about them and their well-being. And it'll make it much more acceptable when you're sort of holding back on doing an adjustment until you get these tests done. So anyways, I think I've sort of hit that point strong enough, but there you go. So we're going to do those additional tests. We get those tests done. Then we're going to schedule a report of findings. So ordinarily, from what you've learned in Module 2, we would schedule the report of findings for the patient to come back and go over all the results. But again, in this case, for reactivating new patients, we may be dealing with a patient who doesn't technically need a full-blown report of findings. We may not need their spouse to come with them. They've been to the office. They know what we're about. They love the adjustments. We want to continue their care just in a different way than the way they've been utilizing it. So you can schedule the report of findings as a formal report of findings, which I'm really excited to show you in Module 3 how that works for those of you who haven't seen that yet. But you also could do it like a mini report of findings. You could do a mini report of findings in a private room at a next visit. Now, in a higher volume office, I understand it's difficult to just sort of cram in a report of findings appointment in the middle of all of your adjusting. So for those of you who have CAs that help with that part of your practice, that deliver the reports of findings, which I've taught you in DC trainings, for those of you who have that availability, you'll probably just schedule a report of findings for your CA to go in and go through those steps, to setting up a new care plan that's not just a pain relief care plan, it's actually a corrective care plan to help them get healthier and stay healthier. So you can do it that way, and by doing it in that way, essentially, and I'll do a recap of all this when we're done, so it kind of flows and makes more sense. But you could do it that way. You could say, okay, I'm gonna do an adjustment today, but for me to do this adjustment today, you have to promise me something, because last time I adjusted you, I didn't see you for a year. This time I'm going to adjust you, but you got to promise me you'll come back tomorrow, because I want to check and see how well you hold this adjustment. I want to see what kind of progress you make. And I want to make sure that it's going in the right direction. And if I wait 9 months to see you again, I'll have no idea how long you held your adjustment or if the results were satisfactory. So can I count on you to be here tomorrow? Patient says, yes, yes, you can, doc. Okay, good. And I already know in the back of my mind, I've got CAs who can deliver the report of findings. So I'm just going to let them know when I walk up front, I need to see this patient back tomorrow. And then we're going to go over the results of their exam today. And I want to check and see how they did with their adjustment. My CAs already know, okay, when he comes back tomorrow, Matt's going to have a little mini report of findings with a CA. And then we go from there. Now, it's not the topic of our webinar today, so I'm gonna hold a little carrot out there and not give it to you yet, because when we get into Module 3, I'm going to talk about the push-off, and I'm going to talk about how that push-off is really important for retention of your patients. So we'll wait for Module 3, and I'll show you how that works. But suffice to say, when they come back for that next visit, it's not going to be an adjustment that goes like this. It's great to see you again, Matt. Did you like your adjustment yesterday? Yes, I did. Did you feel better? Yes, I did. Okay, great. Let's get you adjusted again today. Boom. Great adjustment. I hope you feel better. We'll see you next time. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be very different. And I'll show you that when we get into Module 3. Okay, so Anyway, so on the screen, you saw that the spouse attendance was optional, and it is optional. It just depends on how long it's been since you've seen the patient. I saw a new patient yesterday. Her name's Rosie, and I haven't seen her for 9 years. So she's a reactivating new patient, but I haven't seen her for 9 years. And I don't know what the reasons were. I think she moved or something. Not a big deal, not relevant. But the point of it was I haven't seen her in so long that I did the exam. And then I scheduled a report of findings. It's actually going to be for Friday, tomorrow. And in this instance, because I hadn't seen her for so long, I did ask her to bring her spouse with her. Now, 9 years ago, she probably heard the same thing from me. I want your spouse to come. I want to make sure that your spouse can help you with specific exercises to improve your condition as fast as possible. So I need your spouse to come with you. Well, I said the same thing yesterday to her about the appointment that's going to happen tomorrow. And that's okay, because it's been so long since she first came in, or since the last time I saw her, that we're sort of repeating that. But you can imagine if she had just been here, say 6 months ago, and 6 months ago I had said, I need you to come back with your spouse, and then I'm going to show you exercises. And I showed them the exercises, and she followed through for a little while and then dropped out of care. And now here she is back. I may not bring up the requirement of having her spouse come with her, because I don't want to repeat the same thing when it's so fresh and have it seem just too redundant. Okay, so that's why I say spouse attendance is optional. Okay, all right. And then here's a note. I just want to elaborate on this, because it's really important and like I'll talk about Rosie in this example because she was just here yesterday, but it's really important that we find the real reason the patient discontinued their original care plan. Now, when we talked to Rosie yesterday, the original reason why she stopped was because she couldn't afford it. Now, let's fast forward 9 years later, she comes in. Obviously, she hasn't had chiropractic care, so her subluxations are more dire. She needs the care, right? She needs probably close to a full care plan. So when I go through these recommendations with a full care plan 9 years later, and I say, you need X number of visits, it's going to be over 12 months. This is what the cost is going to be. If I'm not sensitive to the fact that the reason why she left 9 years ago was because she couldn't afford it, it's going to seem almost insulting when I say, okay, and it's, your care plan comes out to be this much per month, $300 a month or $400 a month or whatever for your visits. So I need to acknowledge why she left before. And that's why it's important when the new patient comes in as a reactivating new patient, one of the really important factors to find out is, why did they leave before? If it was, maybe they weren't getting results. Maybe the commute was too hard to drive to the office. Maybe they couldn't afford it. Maybe their insurance had changed. There's all these different factors, and you want to make sure that you factor those in, because if you don't acknowledge that, you're going to sound like a broken record, because you're repeating the same thing, and they're going to say no again, but for the same reason. And at that point, they're probably going to have an impression in their mind that, this doctor's office just isn't hearing me, because I can't afford to do this. I'm a single parent, or whatever the reason is. I drive all the way across town. It takes me an hour to get here. Whatever that reason is, they're going to walk away with the impression that, this office just isn't listening to me. They're not hearing what the issues are. I know I'm hurting. I really would like to come here, but since they're not really hearing what I'm saying, I'm going to go find chiropractic care elsewhere. So we don't want to run into that issue. And that's why I'm going to put this back up. Really important that we find the real reason why they discontinued that original care plan, and don't repeat the same mistake twice if that's relevant. Okay. So let's go back to this screen here. So here we're kind of wrapping up, right? The lasting impression, right? We have our new patient series. So we're finished with the reactivating new patient. Now we're going to go into just wrapping up the whole module. So the lasting impressions after the first visit is that your new patient can now say and define subluxation. They may never have heard that term before, but now they can actually say it, because they've said it how many times? Now remember, I've taught you this whole flow. In that first visit for your new patient, they're going to say the word subluxation twice, right? Once with the CA, once with the doctor, and they're going to define it once with the CA, right? That's the flow that I've taught you through DC trainings that helps your patient go through a paradigm shift. What's a paradigm shift? It's a shift from one way of thinking to a new way of thinking. I used to think of chiropractic care for back pain and pain relief, or I never knew about chiropractic care. A friend told me it helped with their headaches, to now chiropractic care is important for the health of my nervous system. And I certainly don't want to have a subluxation affecting my nervous system, right? So now that you're building that awareness, that education for people so that they can make an educated decision about how they utilize chiropractic care for themselves and their family and really start to experience optimum health. By the way, as we're wrapping up here, this is a good time to answer any questions that you have. So if you have a question, raise your hand, just type it in. However, I'm happy to answer your questions for you. So they can say and define subluxation. They feel strongly, I came to the right place. This doctor's office cares about me. They know what they're talking about. They're professional. They're organized. They're efficient. Really strong words, right? Especially in the case of healthcare or a doctor's office, that's really important. Oh, I have to share another story with you, but let me finish this little. This was another, because I'm in practice full-time like you. So I have these really amazing experiences so I want to share a story with you about this patient that came in yesterday. Anyways, knows that the doctor and staff, so not just the doctor, but the staff too, now that your new patient realizes this whole office understands my problem. They understand what's causing it. They understand how to care for me. They understand how to solve it. They're knowledgeable about my condition. Like, these are all the thoughts that are going through this person's head. And in many cases, and that's why I want to share this story with you, they've been run through the mill without any resolution or any solution in sight. And so I had a family, a couple, husband, wife, they came in to see me. They started care recently. They've been getting adjusted. And I haven't actually seen them together yet. They had different appointment times, but yesterday they came in together. And it was so great because as they were there together, the wife said, wow, it's so amazing watching my husband get adjusted, because I know what it feels like for me, but it's so different when you're actually watching somebody else get adjusted. They hadn't seen that before. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was, she said, we had been struggling for so long to find a solution for these health problems. Her husband used to take Vicodin every day, twice a day. He was taking it for months on end, 2 Vicodins, or twice a day he would take Vicodins. And she had problems with headaches that were just nonstop, and they'd been to multiple doctors. No doctors ever told them what was causing their health problems. They even asked. She said, we were so frustrated because we would ask, I don't want to take pills. I don't like to take pills. What's causing these problems? And then, you know what the doctors would say? And this is somebody, they have a doctorate degree. This is a medical doctor, and a patient's asking a question, what is causing my health problem? And both of them told me that multiple doctors, when they were asked that question, you know what they said? I don't know. I don't know what's causing that problem. What? How can someone who goes through the level of training to become a doctor be presented with a very straightforward health problem like headaches or back pain? How can they come up with, I don't know what's causing it, after all that time in training, right? And education. I just thought that was amazing. But the best part was, when they came in, they said, we knew we were in the right place, because when we walked in, and I know we're past the whole mask thing right now and the COVID, which is great, but they came in, they've been to all these doctors' offices, and they came in, they said, I knew we were in the right place when we walked into your office, because the first thing we saw was that nobody had masks on. That was we just felt like we found our place. But then beyond that, going back to the screen, they came back to, what really was impressive for us is that you were the first doctor who said, I know what's causing your problem. Isn't that amazing? So you can see that on the screen. We're knowledgeable about the condition. This is where we give patients hope. We give them inspiration. We give them a direction to solve these problems. It's really powerful. So these are the lasting impressions after the last visit. And then we continue with that. We also want to make sure that the new patient realizes my condition is worse than I thought. It's not just about pain relief. There's a condition here that can be managed, it can be taken care of, and it can be solved with the right approach. And then lastly, I hope they accept me as a patient. Now that's powerful because, as I'll show you in module 3, I want to make sure that you as the doctor are comfortable saying to your patient, in order for me to accept you as a patient, it's only with the understanding that you follow my recommendations. Why? Because for those patients that follow my recommendations, they experience the best results. And that's what I want for you. If you're not willing to follow my recommendations, are you going to get the best results? No. I'd rather not even get started than to have you not get or not even have a chance to experience the best results. That's where my threshold is for the results for my patients. Now, if you're on board with that, great, and you'll follow through with my recommendations, I'm absolutely happy to take you on as a patient, and I will do my very best to help you. But I just want to let you know right now, if you're not willing to follow my recommendations, let's not even get started, because I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. Let's either go 100% or not at all. Okay, so that's a good place to come from. It shows your compassion, it shows your empathy, but it also shows your expertise in terms of how you care for subluxations. So let's see, and I think we're going to go back over the screen here. Yeah, I want to just show you a couple of pictures and we're going to wrap up, because think about what I like to think about when I take care of patients, especially children, because I take care of a lot of children, is who will this little person grow up to become? What kind of a life do they have ahead of them? Are they going to become, a business owner? Are they going to become a father? Are they going to become a mother? Are they going to, someday they'll be a grandparent? Are they going to have children? What kind of influences will they have on the people around them? And how much better will they be able to influence the people around them if they're coming from a place of abundance, especially with regards to health? Having abundant health puts us all in a position that we could be more successful in our lives. And that's why it's so important to really commit yourself fully to providing the best care for each patient. Every new patient that comes in deserves that, right? Here's a baby that I've been taking care of, and the mom. We take care of a lot of kids. So I love putting these pictures up because, again, these are children who are going to grow up with so much more potential to accomplish more in life. Whatever they choose, whatever their path is. I mean, maybe this child is going to grow up and become a chiropractor, right? I mean, he'll be able to say, I've been subluxation free since I was born because my parents took me to a chiropractor. Whatever he decides to do is fine. I just want to make sure that he's in a capacity where the sky's the limit and he's not held back by having subluxations in his spine, right? And kids love chiropractic care. I mean, when you adjust kids, it's, as you all know, they just love it. It's so pure. It's so natural. They don't want to get a shot. They don't want to take a pill, but they do want to get adjusted. And that's what we need to provide and help our patients with. So as we're wrapping up here today, these are my kids when they were much younger. Of course, we've been playing around and goofing around, hoping, maybe they'll become chiropractors someday. Actually, our oldest son, this is him here when he was much younger, but he is in college right now and potentially pursuing a chiropractic degree. So we'll see if he chooses to do that. So here's our outline for this module, right? We started with the memorable welcome. We continued into subluxation education, really teaching about the subluxations and educating what that term is and what it means. We went into the consultation details where we gathered all of the symptoms, all the health challenges that our new patient is experiencing, not just what they walked in talking about, but anything that they are having trouble with. We want to document that and make sure that we have it recorded, because later on, when their nervous system and their body is experiencing health in an abundance because they're subluxation free, we want chiropractic care to get the credit for that, right? We're going to prioritize those into the primary concerns, the 3 or less, 1 to 3 things that they really, really are motivated to get rid of. And I'll just reemphasize, because the more precise you are with the primary concerns, the better your retention will be. Your patients will stay with you long-term. They'll enjoy reaching maximum benefits of chiropractic care. So we want to be real precise with our primary concerns and collecting that data. Then we got into the doctor's exam, the exam done by the doctor. How do you really not only do an exam to gather the information that you need to provide the best care, But how do you demonstrate that exam in a way that it elevates the priority of receiving appropriate chiropractic care in the mind of your patient? We also talked about the CA exam and how having your CAs participate with the exam does two things. One, it elevates their involvement with patient care, which builds their own confidence, their own commitment to the mission of chiropractic, and it builds their connection to your office because they're really involved on that level. It also frees you up, doctors, because if your CAs are helping with the exam, that frees you up to serve more patients. So you can serve more patients while they're doing that part of the exam. It's a great efficiency step when you're in your own practice to raise your ceiling. We talked about the new patient completion. How do we wrap up that appointment? Because we built up all this value, this momentum, this forward movement, traction, if you will. There's a book behind me on my bookshelf called Traction. Love that book, by the way. If you want to read a good book, buy the book. It's called Traction. Great book. But we've built up all this traction that's going to propel us into the report of findings and help us to now set up our patients on continued care so they can continue to enjoy the fullest level of health in the years to come. And then today's topic, the Reactivating New Patient, where we're sort of summarizing the whole module, but we're also dialing it in for those patients that we all have that sort of come and go for whatever reason and need that reminder as to how to really utilize chiropractic care to get the best benefit. All right, so that wraps up our module. Anything else that you need, you can always email me, dctrainings@gmail.com, or you can call the office. I mean, I'm here to help you. I want to see that you have everything that you need to really succeed in practice and have a really great dynamic practice. Actually, and that reminds me, because I forgot to show you the website. So I won't take long with this, but I do want to just show you, because on the website, we have our materials here for you. And for this week, there's really just one material, and that's the Reactivating New Patient outline. So on that outline, there's the steps that I just went through today. So you can read through that. There's also on the backside, actually, I'm sorry, I only opened one. There's also, actually, no, that was it. I'm sorry. There's a video. That's what I was missing. There's a demonstration of a Reactivating New Patient video. So you can watch that sequence as well. It's just a 2-minute video, but it goes through those high points and this is one I would definitely recommend watching because it goes through, this is a patient, I'm reenacting a patient who's been like an echo patient. They come, they get adjusted because they're hurting, and then they're gone. And I tell them, you shouldn't wait till you're hurting so bad, but they do it, and then they come back. And so I really dive into the specifics of how to sort of let that patient know, here's my parameters for taking care of you. I would certainly encourage you to adopt and incorporate those parameters into your own healthcare. And we go into detail on that. So definitely check out that video. And then, of course, we have the outline here, which I went through today on the PowerPoint. So those are available for you on the website. I also want to remind everyone, please be sure to utilize the goals tracking system, because on the goals tracking system, it's going to help you to watch your goals become a reality. Whoops, actually, you know what I just did? I don't think I shared my screen, so I apologize. Let me jump back over here. I was showing you the document there, but I didn't share my screen. So, but yeah, on the goals tracking system, please utilize this. It doesn't cost you anything. It's already built for you, and it's a great way to track your goals. I've got a new CA that I'm training right now, and we have been deep in the weeds on this goals tracking system, showing her what's expected for her in the office and how she can perform in the office with specific expectations, and she's really doing it. It's been pretty amazing to watch that take place. So just want to let you know that, again, that's there and available for you. Thank you for being a part of DC Trainings. But the main thing is, let's take great care of our patients so they can enjoy optimum health through a subluxation-free lens and abundance of healthy function. Okay, anyways, thank you so much. I will talk to you next week.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.